landed my Big Four offer faster than most people hear back from their first application. While students spend 6 to 8 months in recruitment cycles, I went from application to offer in just 60 days. And I did this with a biomedical degree, no internships, and 0 corporate experience. But here's what's even crazier. I only needed 13 applications total. Not hundreds, just 13. Let me show you why most students are playing the graduate recruitment game completely wrong. Think about this. If you're out there, sending 150 applications to just get one offer, that's a 0.6 success rate. I had a 31% success rate getting to final rounds with just 13 applications. Now, rather than respond and say, that's impossible, let me walk you through this. So let's move on to the first point. The first thing you need to understand is what I call the modern recruitment equation. Most students think it's about number of applications times perfect grades, which equals the offer. But, that's completely wrong. This is what's actually happening. Big Four firms are instead looking at your unique value, your strategic positioning, and that's what lands offers. Your unique value is actually what makes you you, and that's something that no one else can have. While yes, other candidates may have the internships, they may have the experience, you can also use your own transferable skills to get the role that you need. So me, for example, I studied biomedical sciences, and I had no experience when I was applying for a tech consulting role. I didn't even know how to code. And this is where I actually used my own unique value, because I knew that I was running a business during university. I had work experience in the women's wear press team in Marks and Spencer's, and that has nothing to do with tech consulting. So I thought about the unique value that each of these things brought for me to the table and how I could position them. Strategic positioning over here, the second most key component, in order to land the offer. And that's what you really need to think about. You need to think about, what do I have, which is your unique value. You need to tie it into strategic positioning to see how it lands in with the company's value, and that is what is going to lead to an offer. So in the context of me, when I applied with my biomedical science degree, I wasn't competing with 500 business graduates saying the exact same things. I was showing firms something that they hadn't even seen before. Now we're going to move on to the second value, and this one has a few layers to it, so let's explain them a bit deeper. The second principle is what I like to call the assessment center multiplier. Out of my 13 applications, I received 4 assessment center invites, final stage before the offers, and that too with a 31% success rate at getting to the final rounds. Here's what's interesting. I actually withdrew from 2 of them, got rejected from one because it was for audit when I wanted consulting, and converted my target role. This isn't about applying everywhere and hoping something sticks. It's about being strategic with where and how you show up. See, I've spoken about interviews a lot, and while interviews do matter in assessment centers, ultimately there is another crucial factor that not a lot of people pay attention to: the group assessment. Now, if you want to watch a video on interviews, you can check out my channel. There's loads of those there. But for now, this is really, really crucial. So let's go over the 4 main types of people that you usually meet at these assessment centers in these group projects. So the first one is usually the loudmouth. This is the person that, wants to be talking over everyone. They always speak the loudest, and they want to get their tone across and their message across, but it just comes across as really aggressive. The second type is the quiet type, and this person doesn't really speak up. They're scared, they're shy, they sit in the corner, and they're often just overlooked. The third type is the perfect candidate, and I will go into that in a second. And let's just move on to the last one for now, which is the fourth type, who doesn't listen. This person, they just want to get their point across. They're not really listening to other people's perspectives. They're not taking feedback on board, and they just come across as very controlling and not collaborative, which obviously is super important. So the perfect candidate over here, what do? Well, essentially, they're a good mix of all of these 3. So you don't want to be someone who's speaking over everyone else, because that's not what's going to get you the role. There's no, sense of being a team leader, or there's no sense of being collaborative or showing up in a teamwork environment. You also don't just want to sit there quietly. Let me put a red cross. You also don't just want to sit there quietly, because you're going to get completely overlooked, and that's not what you want. Obviously, that one's pretty self-explanatory. And the fourth one just doesn't listen. You want to make sure that while you are also telling them, you also want to listen. You listen to them, you take their feedback on board, and after this, you reach a common solution and conclusion together. It's not about forcing your ideas or, proving that you're right. It's about seeing what's best for the group as a whole, okay? So this is what's super important. That is what the perfect candidate looks like. Not this, not this, not this, but in fact, this. So look, now we'll move on to the third value, which is also super important. The third principle is about timing and positioning. Now, I need to be completely honest. While I got lucky starting my applications in March, you need to start as early as possible around the September the year before. And here's why. Each application is a learning opportunity. Those first 6 applications I submitted before my successful Big 4 one, they taught me exactly what works and what doesn't. Every interview, every assessment center, every assessment, they're all data points that help you refine your approach. Here's what most students get completely wrong when it comes to applying for jobs. They start early, but they keep making the same mistakes over and over again. And I like to call this the insanity loop. This candidate, they'll send out 100 applications with the same CV, the same approach, the same result. Rejection. That's not strategy. That's just stupidity and insanity. If you're submitting the exact same CV, exact same application, and it's facing rejections, yet you're going through that whole cycle again, expecting the same result, I'm sorry to break it to you, but that's the absolute wrong approach. You need a strategic approach in place. So these 3 tips is exactly how I went from 0 corporate experience to a Big 4 offer in just 60 days. This isn't theory. I went from a biomedical science student to choosing what offer I wanted to accept. While others were still waiting for their responses from hundreds of applications, I was withdrawing from processes because I had what I wanted. If you want to understand more about how this modern recruitment equation works, make sure you hit subscribe because I help students secure corporate roles and I'm helping 100 students land corporate roles in 2025. If you want to be one of them, make sure you drop a comment below, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.